Welcome to the Regina Queen Show. Here with me is Michelle Diaz, and we are here today to raise awareness to prevent those of you who are suffering mental illness in silence to prevent suicide. Hello, Michelle Diaz. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Regina. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Regina Queen Show to be an
For
inspiration.
the invite. Thank you.
Yes. And Michelle Diaz, you're here today to empower people who are suffering mental illness um, from the experience that you had encountered of your own. And I really believe, truly know that your story will help someone and to prevent someone from committing suicide, as though our youth today are suffering mental illness in silence, and it triggers off other disorders, and it comes from a lot of other different things as well too, far as domestic violence, being in a domestic violence relationships at a tender young age, going through being bullied, at school, bringing down our youth self esteem, generational curses, something that's been ruling down the line from generation to generation, and it's taking a toll every day um, for our youth, and it is really a major epidemic for our youth. And can you share some of your story of what you encountered, Michelle Diaz?
Hi, Regina. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of my story. Um, this is a very hard topic for me to talk about because we're talking about a very vibrant young teenager who's now 17 years old, and she was sexually molested at the age of 5. And although we grew up in the church, a God fearing young lady, um, I started to notice that her behavior, her mental stability, and her behavior started spiraling out of control when she was in middle school. So things were fine for a time. She was the minister youth for the classes in church. She was one of the young leaders for Bible class, and she was a vibrant young girl. She was on her way to healing. But then, like you said, temptation, school pressure, school bullying, she kept that all in. She never really spoke to me about the stuff that was going on in middle school. And so we already know that there's a physical word and there's a spiritual word for the influences that start to impact the thought process of young teenagers today. So she started to experiment with not very good friendships and not very good behaviors. Those were all trauma behaviors because there were unhealed wounds from her past, but it all continued to spiral out of control. And so I started to see rebellious behavior, disrespectful behavior, her not coming home at appropriate hours. And then it increased and she came into more erratic behavior. And again, sometimes when you have these mind battles and you don't tell your parents about it, parents don't find out about crazy, dangerous situations you put yourself in until years later. And so this year, her mental health has just completely deteriorated. She did some stuff online that she should not have done. And when she tried to go back to high school, all these kids were pressuring her and making her feel like a whore, like she was not worthy of being there. And that took another target to her brain, to her mindset.
Yeah.
And now we're just in a place where she's completely spiraled out of control.
So I'm so sorry to hear, Michelle, of what you have to go through, with your daughter with these emotional mental issues, and um, it's really hard, um, to it gets hard to deal with these certain type of issues with our youth today in these days because there's so much going on, and these children has been impacted by social media as well, and I believe social media has a lot to do with certain issues too as well. And it was so important for to share your story here of what you're going through with your daughter. As you know, you hear about parents losing our children to gun violence and suicide, and parents, we're crying out, after we're losing our children, and so to violence, and still having a child actually physically here with us is so very important that we just keep them close to our heart and do everything we possibly can to you know protect our children. And I see that you do that, very much as well. You haven't given up on your daughter. And can you share with us, because mothers need to know how to deal with a situation like this with a child who is suffering, has been suffering in silence, and this is the impact of what can happen. Can you share um, a little bit of what happened to you behind the impact of her suffering and how you dealt with the situation?
Um, 7 weeks ago, she was heading into the streets, putting herself in very dangerous, risky sexual situations, suffering severe suicidal thoughts, attempting to cut herself. Um, she said she didn't care about where she went or what she would do. She was around people who were offering her drugs and drinking. And so we put her into a BEST program that is through a Massachusetts General Hospital that offered her home counseling and home clinicians to visit. But this past Friday, she had a relapse after being doing good for about 6 weeks. And she had gone out to get her sister, and she encountered a gentleman who hurt her soul. And that triggered, that's something that triggers people who are suffering in silence a lot. Trigger points can be even seeing the person who has caused you such traumas. And so she came home, and I started to notice and discern that she would go from laughing and happy that she saw him to a rage of, she just went into a fit of rage where she was feeling uncontrollable desire to want to hurt this guy. And I started crying. I went to the room. I started praying. I held her. I said, "Sweetheart, calm down. You knew this was going to happen." One of the things for us as parents is that we have to remain calm when they're in their storm. When they're feeling that rage, we cannot enter the rage with them. So I tried to remain as calm as I could. But I started to notice as the night went on that her bipolar personality was taking over, and my daughter developed an alter ego named Jessica to protect herself, because Jessica makes her be bold and audacious about, I want to kill people, I want to hurt people, I want to kill myself, I want to do this, I want to do that. So that evening she was on a social platform talking to a gentleman we didn't approve of. I think he was her age.
Mhm.
I reproached her. I said, "Sweetheart, are you think that's a good idea?" And then her brother made a comment that also triggered her. And so I turned off the internet, and she goes, "That's the only guy I needed to talk to. He's the only one who understands me." And she went into an even bigger fit of rage, and she was shaking, and I could see that her physical face was changing right before me.
Mhm.
And she headed for the balcony screaming, "I'm going to kill myself. If you don't let me go, I'm going to kill myself." And I saw the premonition. I saw the vision of a suicide demon overpower her. And I saw it before it even could happen, and I saw it pushing her over the balcony. So I stepped in and I got in the way of her rage and her fury, grabbing her hoodie, and the metal door nearly almost broke my face. I
Wow.
blacked out and I was taken to the hospital, and I had to have emergency surgery that night.
Sorry to hear that. Michelle Diaz, can you share with us the impact of the eye from the mental illness that your daughter suffered? How it impacted your eye? What type of procedure did you have to undergo?
The first procedure they had to do was, this was the size of a golf ball. They had to drain that in order to be able to touch my face.
Mm.
She created damage to the ocular nerve. I can't see out of this eye. She ruptured the upper tissue above my brow bone, and it won't heal for about 3 months. I lost sensation to this whole side of my face, and there was splatted and ruptured veins behind the eye that was leaking into the iris. So they took me to Mass Eye and Ear for surgery, where they would create a thin inner needle going into the eye to create drainage to avoid permanent vision loss.
So you said it just how many inches away before it could have affected your eye, like with a long term blindness or losing the eye?
So the bleeding was going to cause a hemorrhage to bleed into the brain, and the way it was spreading in the eye before surgery, it was going to touch the iris, the colored part.
Mm.
So by a few minutes, if I would not have gone, I would have had permanent vision loss.
Wow, you are so blessed that you made it through that, and it didn't erupture that part of your eye. And I can feel what you are going through. Michelle Diaz, how is your daughter doing now?
She's scared. She's happy that I'm alive and well. She has said that she's so, so sorry. And she accepts that her mind is not okay. She tells me, Mom, I'm sorry. I wish you could understand what's going on in my mind. And we're going to get some help from a long extensive family therapy. It's a place that gives her her own bed and space where she could work with therapists and have some time away from everything that stresses her. And today she started her holistic treatment that I got her, which is mood and stress with ashwagandha powder and herbs. And she's also going to start taking natural holistic pills to help her insomnia traumas, to help her sleep better.
Will this be her first time taking medication?
It's her first time accepting that she needs something to start healing her body from the inside.
Have she ever tried medication before?
No, Regina, I don't agree with Western medicine, but she has always taken all the natural holistic stuff that I have offered her. She hasn't been sleeping or eating well, and that adds to mental disorders. We need to take care of our temple, or our body, which is the light of Christ, is all out of whack.
Yes. Yes. So Michelle Diaz, if you hadn't entered that room at that moment, do you feel is that it's possible that your daughter wouldn't be alive today?
I'm certain her mental state that night was, it was it was bad.
Do you know how long have she suffered?
I think her mental instability and her war with inner demons and sadness and depression has been it's been going on for a very long time, probably since she was a child. But she's the thing about it, Regina, is that some of us who smile the hardest and are the most vibrant people to light up a room are some of the most people that are hurting the most inside.
That's true. That is so true. Yes, and again, I send my heart out to you and your daughter, and I hope things get better. And thank you for raising the awareness to prevent suicide here on the Regina Queen Show. And can you share with other parents what signs to look out for? Because you have a lot of knowledge about mental illness, and I really do accept your knowledge. So you had spoken about it once before. So can you reiterate what signs to look out for to what is a red flag for suffering in silence for mental illness? What should a parent know about their child?
Your children can start at a very early age to show detachment of emotions. If you notice that they space out more than often, one of the first signs before the second sign is that they will often joke about certain actions that they may want to take, but then you'll start to see erratic behavior that kind of is is a show of what they were saying before. So if before they were saying something like, "Oh, I'm going to kill that dog," and then suddenly accidentally you come home and the dog actually, "Oh, I kicked him. Oh, I kicked him and he died."
Mm,
That's a major red flag that there's fury in their mind, they're harvesting anger, that they're unstably emotionally unstable to the point that
I know.
they're now acting on those emotions.
Yes, and that is a big red flag. A sign right there is how they treat animals as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And
And
then
it's for most human beings too. Usually when human beings are abusive towards animals,
yes, that
those
is
are the people who are
I
suffering.
believe that, Regina. I believe solely that if you are not a caretaker of the beasts of this world that the Most High placed here, you're lacking. That's another key sign. If you see a lack of empathy in them, their heart is starting to grow cold. And if the heart and the mind are not aligned together, then you're going to see that the heart grows cold. And so that's where you start to sense that they won't play, the little girl won't play with the dolls, or she'll be slamming them, or she'll be ripping the heads off, because it starts at a very young age. I like parents to understand that you can see key signs in children as young as 3 and 4 years old. You can observe those red flags. So if they have no empathy, not even towards a doll that they're playing with, that's a big key sign. Another one is what they're doing on social media. If you have certain games and they prefer the violent games, that's also a key sign that their mind and headspace is not in a very good place. It's not in a place of light or happy and joy. Things that they may be drawing or things that they may be writing, you also have to observe that, because Soraya at a very young age was showing through her writings a lot of her hatred and a lot of her instability.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up too, about what to pay attention to what children are writing and drawing
Mm.
on a piece of paper. I've I seen a picture that you posted up from what your daughter has been drawing, and that picture. Can you describe the picture that you put up and
So,
what that picture just to the end body like to just of the picture.
so the pictures I shared were of her when she was taking like Sharpie markers, and she was drawing like a penis on one arm. She was drawing the upside down cross on her chest, and then she'll write stuff like fuck you, hell, death, and things like that, 666. And so, what I want parents to understand is that anytime you see that in a bedroom, in a paper, or on their body, those are key signs of demonic possession. And that's when it's literally 911 emergency. Either they need to get locked up, deliverance by Christ, whatever your belief is. But that's when you know something within them is speaking through them. And that's how I knew that for me it was borderline. I knew that that was a heavy demonic possession in her mind and in her heart.
Yes, because they act out their feelings on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and that is very important to pay attention to as well. So thank you for sharing that part of your story, your daughter's story, to help prevent suicide. Michelle Diaz, that's very important. I appreciate that. And then we have somebody here. She said that social media is so toxic. Yes, it really is.
It really is. It takes the minds of our youth from the reality of being able to talk to young people in a healthy way. And it's such a she's right. It's such a toxic environment.
Yes, you're right, Cora. It is toxic. And thank you for that. Yeah, so thank you so much, Michelle Diaz. And I send my most deepest love and compassion out to you and your daughter. And I hope everything gets better. And for you both are in my prayers, always in my prayers. And always, if you can, let me know if there's anything that, you may need help with that my organization can help you guys with. I will be happy to.
Thank you, Regina. I really appreciate it. Thank you for letting me use your platform to reach so many moms that are probably suffering in silence, and so many people that probably have no idea that this is not just a scientific term of mental illness. We're talking about spiritual attacks of the mind, of the psyche, and they harvest these feelings when we're vibrating low, when, like you said, when a child is being bullied in school, when there's issues at home that a child will see and not talk about. All those things feed mental instability, and it feeds to more tragic situations. And I know that my situation on Friday was only a result of how much anger she builds up because she can't release. And so I got in the way of her war with those demons, with that battle within her own mind. And I'm just really glad I'm alive. She recognizes today that Satan wants to take me out. And she said, "Mom, I'm so sorry that I allowed myself to be used like that." But for her, it's just her mind. I pray that we reach a point where she allows Christ back in her heart so
Yes.
that she can get back into her stability that she needs to be okay.
Yes. Thank you for that so much, Michelle Diaz. And this is very important for mothers, and because we all, for moms who has children, we need to know these signs and red flags, and just to help each other with hints and tips and stuff. It doesn't hurt. People just can't say, hey, yes, you a super mom, yeah, we can be super moms, but there is a struggle with every parent. There is a struggle, so with every parent, and even if you have one child, there's a struggle.
I think one child might even be more of a work than having two or three.
We're just so blessed to make it out alive.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because
nobody gave us a handbook, Regina, when it came to parenting.
yes, yes, and we just when we hear everyone, me and Michelle Diaz and I, we we want to empower parents to watch out for them flags and red flags, them signs of suffering with mental illness, suffering in silence from mental illness. and to prevent your child from committing suicide, and loved ones too, whoever, a friend, cousin, neighbor, doesn't matter. Just pay attention. If you notice any type of unusual behavior, reach out to that person and try and get that person some help. I don't have I didn't post up my 1-800 suicide number, but I will post it up after this video is done. As our interview is over, we will have that 1-800 number posted up.
Regina, one more thing. One
Sure.
thing that I forgot to mention is that remember in the beginning how I said that some of the most vibrant people who light up a room tend to be the ones who are usually suffering in silence. One of the key things that you can observe, aside from how they may start to space out, is that in the day, well, scientific medical terms like to call it bipolar, but that's one of the key signs. When you see these erratic mood swings where one minute they're so happy, they're dancing, they're singing their favorite song, and they're all vibrant in the room, but then suddenly they grow really quiet and they're just kind of in their thoughts, and they'll tell you that they need to be alone. That's one of the major things that has helped me as a parent. Is I'll always say, Isaac, go with her. She wants to go for a walk, Isaac, go with her. I'll try to never leave her alone. And in our family, we've kind of learned that with her. So even the older sister will say, Mom, is she going for the corner store? Don't let her go alone. So we try never to leave her alone, because we've seen the ups and downs of that. So that's something moms should really watch out for. If one minute they're singing like their favorite song, and the next minute it's like, why are you so quiet? And they're asking to kind of be alone with their thoughts. That's like the biggest red flag that a parent.
Wow. Yes. Thank you for that. And that's very, very important because some children can leave home feeling down and, going through depression and not return back home. And then the mom gets a phone call
Yeah,
of
yeah.
their child committed suicide.
And that's what
You
used to happen with her all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you keep your head up, stay strong, and you got this, Michelle Diaz. And I'm always here for you too. Um, Sisterhood Nation. So yeah, we got this. And just know, everyone, depression does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what color you are, how rich, how poor. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. It does not discriminate. Please, if you know anyone that's suffering in silence from mental illness, if you are that person or know someone, get some help. Reach out. Don't let it take you out. And you are stronger than what you think you are. And we thank you so much for being here with us on the Regina Queen Show. And we are going to head out now. And thank you, Michelle Diaz. And I love you, my sister.
I love you too, sis. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye bye.